Hi guys, it's Miss Powell today, and I'm going to walk you through your notes on the experimental and theoretical probability. So there's a difference between these two types of probability, and that's what we're going to be discussing today. When I think of theoretical probability, I personally like to think of, in theory, what happens. That's kind of what I think in my mind. And then when I go over here to experimental, this one's kind of easier because it has the word experiment in here. So if I was to do an experiment, what would actually happen? So let's go ahead and get started, and we'll start with the experimental probability. So experimental is the ratio of the number of times an event occurs to the total number of trials or times you've done something. So you think of, with an experimental probability, you think of what does happen. Okay, when we go over to theoretical probability, that's going to be the probability of an event happening based on the possible outcomes. So you think what should happen. So I think of, with theoretical probability, if I was to take a six-sided dice or die, and I'm going to roll it, what are the chances of me rolling a 1? Well, that would be a 1 out of 6 chance, theoretically. So that would be a 1 out of 6 probability. Now, if I wanted to find the experimental probability, I can roll that dice 10 times and then find the probability of how many times I got that 1 out of 10 times. So let's go ahead and actually look at this spinner down here. With this spinner, we're going to find some theoretical probabilities here, and then we're going to actually do an experiment and get the experimental probability and see how they relate. So this first question, well, let's look at the spinner first. We've got 4 that are just solid blank, 2 stars, 1 polka dot, and a stripe. So let's start with number 1. So if I was to create a spinner, and we were going to spin this a bunch of times, theoretically, what's the theoretical probability that we would spin and get a section with stripes? Well, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 total sections, and there's only 1 that is stripes. So the theoretical probability of getting stripes would be 1 out of 8. Now, it's important to know that we can do probability with percentages. So we could turn this into a percentage and say the percentage is the probability, but for today we'll just stay with fractions. We will reduce, though, if we can. Let's move on to number 2. What is the theoretical probability of spinning a section with stars? Well, we still have our 8 sections. How many are stars? Only 2. Those are just the dots, so 2 out of the 8. So you would think 2 out of 8 is our theoretical probability, but we're not done. We're going to reduce that. Let's divide by 2 on the top and bottom and get 1/4. Moving on for number 3. What's the theoretical probability of not spinning a solid or striped section? So not a solid and not a striped. So we have 3 others out of the 8 choices. So those are our theoretical probabilities if we were to use the spinner. Now we're going to actually do an experiment to find our experimental probability. So here we go. I'm going to create a spinner, and guys, if it lands in the middle, I'm just going to call it which one I think, and we're going to do a total of 10 times in our table, and we'll just tally for the first couple. I'm going to say that's a little bit more solid. I guess they'll say white. We got a polka dot. Another white. Ooh, close one, guys. What do you think? I'm gonna go with stripes, kind of. That's... Oh... Actually, maybe I just bumped it. Alright, we'll go with stars. That one was a 50-50, though. I'll have to be a little bit more careful. Alright, we've got a solid white again. That's a stripe for sure. We're doing 10, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're almost there. Almost say solid. Or white, sorry. I'm gonna move it this way so I can spin it. Okay, we've got stripes. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Solid. It's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Last one. Here we go. And we got a star. Alright, so for stripes, the total number of spins for stripes was 2, 5, there was only 1 dot, and 2 stars. So the experimental probability, I spun 10 times, and for stripes, 2 out of the 10 were stripes, which reduces to 1/5. 5 out of the 10 were the white solid, which reduces to 1/2. Only 1 was dots out of the 10. That one just stays as is. And for stars, we had 2 out of the 10, which we can reduce to 1/5 again. So, just for fun, I'm going to take my calculator over here. I've got my dog in the background. And I'm going to turn these into percentages so I can kind of compare these theoretical versus experimental. I find that comparing the percentages are a little bit easier than the fractions. So we had 1/8 earlier, and that's going to be 12.5%. And this was 25% if you divide that as well. So let's take these two and kind of compare down here. We wanted to know, what is the theoretical probability of spinning a section with stripes? We said 12.5% for theoretical probability of stripes, and we got 1/5 for the experimental. So if you divide 1 divided by 5, you get 20%. Theoretically, experimental probability for stripes was 20%. So it actually happened a little bit more. It was higher than our theoretical. This one was comparing the theoretical for stars. We said 25%. Well, I have 1/5 again. If we divide that and turn it into a percent, I still get 20% again. So that's pretty close. The theoretical versus experimental are very close there. So there is a relation between them, but you can see as you do the experimental, your numbers will fluctuate. It's also important to know that if I had done more than 10 times and did 100 times for this experiment of spinning, we would be very close to the theoretical. You'll get closer the higher your total attempts are. So are there any results in which the theoretical and experimental probability are the same? Why or why not? No. But let's say with the stars, we're pretty close. We'll also note as we increase our total spins, so if I had spun 100 times instead of 10 times, our theoretical and experimental probability would be a lot closer. Alright guys, you can go ahead and print off or pull up the practice page from your teacher's Canvas page. And don't forget to check it with the key when you're done. Bye guys, have a good day.